Hey guys, turning my light on here if I can find it. So a while back, as you all know, my students bought me a birthday present, which was some lessons with a pro, and I did an 8-part series on my first lesson. Each of the situations I showed the pro and all the questions I had, each one of those went into one video. So this is lesson number 2 with a little different format. This time I had Crazy Stone. I'm basically playing Crazy Stone on my desktop and talking to him as I play about the situations and directions of play and what everything means. And these, you're going to find I'm asking some extremely simple questions that, I don't know, you might find incredibly boring. Like, that's stupid. But I wanted to ask a bunch of questions, and I did. Okay, let's get going. You can see I'm the white stones. Here I just marked all the spots that I thought were fine. He says, of course, L is actually not a spot. We'll look at that in a moment. D is something that is a bit less usual, but we'll see. We'll take a look at these things. Okay, let's start with the high. I generally think of the fourth line as growing, which white doesn't exactly have the right to do here. Also keeping the pressure on black, but there's no pressure here. And he doesn't see it that way. He saw it more as it's more center oriented for the upcoming fights, this sort of thing. And this does make sense. He also said that the fourth line tends to bring A. And the reason being, black will often choose this Joseki. White's next move won't be 3-3 because white's just not getting anything here at all. So instead, white will come out, and then there's the spot we talked about. And again, it's not that white's applying pressure anywhere, but rather white's really quite prepared for the future. We looked at that. On this one, the idea is he's saying it doesn't matter which one you choose, especially on the first Joseki. So here's white choosing a Joseki. He says it really doesn't matter. Even at professional level, that's not important. The second Joseki, all of a sudden you're working with something that has been established. But first Joseki, you're just choosing something, and that's fine. So we looked at this as an example. It's just a choice. Okay, white stabilized, black at the corner, and the game continues. So it's just a choice. We looked at that. The kick is something that bothers me a little bit. In the past, 40, 50 years ago, before AI, we didn't used to kick so much because white's still doesn't have the corner. Yet we're encouraging black to develop, in this case, the whole bottom. And I took some time with them saying, we're asking black to develop the area he wants to develop when we're still not getting the corner. And his response is, it's just Joseki. It doesn't mean white's getting something extra. It doesn't mean black's getting something extra. It's simply a way where white and black both settle. And when it comes to the various invasions, if black comes in, then black's bottom area is going to get messed up. It's going to lose all that. As you can see, we'll just take a quick look. We'll just pretend we're playing this. And now coming in is many ways in. I'm just saying that black's bottom area is gone. So if black takes the bottom, white gets the corner. If black takes the corner, white gets the bottom. Also, when black comes in, black is not getting out. But when white comes in, for instance, here, if white comes in, white may well be getting out. So we might say it's a little easier for white to invade than for black to invade. But the whole point is that it's just everyone stabilizing, and that's fine. What is this? Oh, he talked about, so we call this the kick and extend, right? White kicks the stone and then extends. And he's saying there's only a few times this is acceptable. And let's look at what that whole thing means. We have, let me put it down here. Okay. White A, the group kicked. The kick is the A stone. A kicks and then D stands up, right? So it's the kick and extend. I should show the negative example first. Let's look at the negative example. Okay, kick and extend. So same thing. Notice the gap at B. Threatens to connect under. If black says no, then white has a very easy time of it in here. The point is that the kick and extend leaves the nasty B spot behind. And this is just a negative most of the time. So let's look at the times where it's not a negative and why that's the case. Okay, in A, that nasty spot that's left behind is at D. Let's just scoot D over for a moment. And there's that spot. If white says no, then black gets to walk out. Pardon me. So you see that spot can be really nasty. But in the actual A situation, the D spot's very tidy and black can't do anything there. We look at the B area, and the B stone is the kick stone, and the vital spot left behind is at E, and that's too controlled of an area, so the E isn't bad Aji at all. So we've seen two situations where it's just not a problem. So any situation where the leftover vital point is not a problem. At C, it's a little bit different. The vital spot is left over, but it's not that it bothers the group. It bothers the points. But then again, if black takes those points, he doesn't get any on the bottom. So the points are equitable regardless, and white's group is not in question. So those are the ones where the kick and extend is fine, but other than that, it just leaves nasty stuff behind. Okay. So of all of those, I just went forward with my standard. Here, I just said that, I would think of A or B, because if black plays A or B, it's starting to look pretty good for him there. It's kind of perfect. So I would play A or B to stop that. And he says, yes, of course. And he says they're both fine. He would play B. I tend to play A. They're both fine. This Joseki, he says, is almost always bad for black. Now I'm going to take A off. Now he says it's simply bad for black, because this white move, there's no real answer for black. If black plays, let's just look at a few here, incredibly slow. Okay, back it off to here, same, just really, really slow. Okay, let's come up here. Well, it's still really slow, right? I mean, you have an open skirt and everything. What do you do? Close the skirt here? That's so many moves for almost nothing. So there's no answer. But if A's in place, then he's saying maybe. Still not something that comes to one's mind, but with E in place, perhaps it's okay. And now white's not particularly interested in pressing, because now the go wave is in place. And this is something I call it the go wave. He called it the wave. The wave is where you start on the third line, come up to the fourth or fifth, and then back down to the third. So the K4 stone's in place for the go wave, and so it's all fitting together well. So in that case, it seems to be fine, and white shouldn't do it. Okay, hopefully I'm making a little bit of sense. So for white, we're not going to press at D because of E. That leaves us with 3 extensions. And I just enjoyed asking them just a bunch of questions. And a lot of the answers I felt 90% confident on and was correct. Others I was really lost, and he helped. But it's nice just gaining clarity. So white's extension to A, it had seemed to me to simply be a stronger, okay, now I'm stronger, you can't mess with me. And he's going, no, that's not the case. The white group simply doesn't have enough base to trust. Kind of like, well, now the base is so small, you have to struggle to get 2 eyes, this sort of thing. So this is just, you just don't go to A. It's not enough base. C's possible, but that's a lot of odds you left behind. There's just so much that can happen inside. It says so B. Okay. Now, the thing that surprised me about this is the move I play 90% of the time. It surprised me that I thought it was solid, but he upped that to super, super solid. He gave it 2 supers. So I'm like, oh, he has a high, he's saying this is something else. So let's look at a couple reasons why. First, we've got a common move for black. Well, let's not use the word common. If white submits, then white was pushed around in Sente and black did good. So no good. But he says, oh no, why would you ever submit here? He says, if black played this, I would only dream of this. It was a really cute way he said it. Says to him, this black move is like, oh, am I dreaming? I get to come out? And he thought, oh, this is always, always bad for black. Because black's having to defend on the bottom, which is already black's, and white gets to mess with the new black stone, which he didn't used to be able to do, this sort of thing. So for that reason, that part's strong for white. And then with this, he's saying there's just, first, if you do play at A, this is not black Sente. So black didn't gain a move. And besides, you can play a little better shape, so you're extremely alive anyway. So there's really nothing that black can do here. In the game, Crazy Stone, and I put it at 1Q setting, I find, for me, Crazy Stone at 1Q, it can play some serious Go and then it makes some stupid mistake. So it's like, plays like 5 Dom and then just goes off somewhere. It played here. And I've always considered that a very bad move for black because it pushes from behind and fixes white. He says, well, yeah, I know what you mean, but in this case, he has A, so he is developing something he wants to develop, making the bottom harder for white, and he turned white from being super, super strong into being super, super strong. So white didn't really gain anything, but black gained a little bit. So in this case, it's probably okay for black. He says, I'm actually not sure, but it seems okay. So I thought that was interesting. Black pressed again, which is just gote and doesn't mean a lot. There's one of those less than 5 Dom moves that the 1Q plays. So my first question would be, how's that white group feeling? And to answer it, I ask myself, well, if black plays at A, am I feeling bad? And his response was no. And black Hane is white's very solid. So the point being that black just is simply gote. Okay. So B through F. That's not exactly true. F is too small because G is low and settled, meaning it has no desire to play on the right. And it's not a particularly wide area compared to the top. So not the biggest area. But, and we're going to talk about E in a moment, but let's just play it. Now, white's taken his 4 lines high, which is not impressive, up to 7 lines high. So now the right has become the biggest area, and B becomes something white does want. So now white's playing in the biggest area. Now it's hard for black to play in white's massive right side. So that's just one of those things that's important to see. So here, D's bigger, and here, this B is bigger. Okay. I asked specifically about the 3-3 B because there's a lot going on. And I've spent the last year playing moves like B on purpose that have nothing to do with the rest of the board, and yet they hold a whole stone's worth of value. And I've been working with this idea of not playing anything special, just a simple basic move. And so I asked him, is B a mistake? Because there's a lot going on. And tucking myself up into the 3-3, he says, no, it's not a mistake. You could tell by his tone, like, why would one play there when there's a whole board to work with? But no, not a mistake. Okay, next we talked about the black moil. He said that his style is, don't let the moil happen. He doesn't like his opponent getting a moil. I don't mind. It's kind of fun letting him get what he wants and then taking it away or something. But then he used a term. He says, when black wants a moil, he likes to force black to take the cash, but now the moil's gone. It's an interesting perspective that I hadn't thought of before. So here we can just enter, right? Stone's alive. So that's not cash, but black's about to make a big moil. And if white plays here, then now black does have cash, but it doesn't have the moil. It's like, oh, okay. Nice way of looking at it. Okay, we continue. I think we're all caught up here. Approached. Here's another example of this whole move's worth of value idea. A. You just can't say it's a mistake. It doesn't lose points. But clearly the direction of play is with B. White's building an entire concept here where black has no stones at all. Top, upper right corner, right, center, all white. That's pretty good direction of play. So why wouldn't one play this way? Even though A is not a mistake, it ignores all that. And I thought that was a really good example of this thing I've been trying to learn this last year of playing just don't build any, don't do anything special. Oh, making a big moil. No, just play next move, simple. But there's no denying that B is the obvious direction of play. Okay. And here, I got a real surprise. You can see the 3 spots I marked. He's like, no. You would never play A. I'm like, what do you mean you wouldn't play A? Why not? It says because of D. And I'm like, okay, you got to show me this one. I just wouldn't think of this. And we had quite the discussion about it. So we'll just look at the old style Joseki that everyone knows. And let's look at one perspective. From early on in this position, white had these 3 stones. I just marked them. What do those stones say? The stones say, I want the top. What has white got? The top. So what's the problem? Now, the answer to that question that I would have come up with, he completely agrees with. First, the A stone, and here he used a term. He says that shape is hellish. I mean, it's just terrible. A is so weak. A stone at B, a black stone at B, is just an easy black stone. I mean, it can get cut. It's a knight's move. The ladder works for black. I mean, it's just a terrible shape, on top of which the top is still invadable. Okay. But more than that, we had a discussion at this position about the upper right 3-3. In my mind, let's just look at it here. And we ask, what's white's claim to see the corner, upper right corner? Now, in my mind, the 4-4 is terrible for the corner because black can simply come in at C and take the whole thing away without any, with just boom, done. It's not even a hint of a problem. Black gets the entirety of cash. So when I add the white stone, I think of two areas, area 1 and area 2. Two separate little areas that white's forming. But he's thinking, no, he sees 3 areas. And the reasoning can't be denied. I just never saw it that way. So the reasoning is white has a stone in the corner. So of course, white is thinking of the corner. And I'm like, yeah, let's look at that a little bit more. If black comes in, see how white's in control? It's like that's white's area. Yes, black can come in, but it's hard because it's white's area. Let's look at the other one. Yeah, black can come in, but it's a tiny little, it's difficult because it's white's area. Is this true of the corner? No. It's not white's area. It's like totally easy for black. This is why I had this impression of these 3 stones. I'm thinking area 1 and 2, not area 3. He's thinking, no, also area 3, because you have a stone in the corner. I'm like, oh, I've never really looked at it that way. So even though the 4-4 is terrible for territory in the corner, it still has corner value. So I still can't phrase it right in my mind. Okay, so when black approaches, he says white should be thinking of the 3 areas, 2 on top, 1 in the corner. And when you pinch, the corner value disappears. And you got nothing in return for it. Not even the top, since that's invadable still. Oh. Did you get a light turned on in your head? I did. It says, so you have to play either B or C. It says the only reason C is okay is because, like, if black plays this way, right, you're getting, you're getting magnificent position. If black plays this Joseki, you can choose the fight. You all know this. And white's better on the fight on the right and on the top. So that's great for white. Therefore, sure, you can play this move. But in his mind, he's like, well, why wouldn't you kick? Because now you have more of a potential corner. Again, it's still not exactly your corner, but so it's interesting. I'm learning with this. Okay, next, black's about to extend. Crazy Stone extended here. And his thought was, strong players have simply stopped extending on the 3rd line. In this, if we look at, just a second, 1, 2, 3, these 6 stones, that upper right Joseki that we're looking at, I'm not looking at the other stones. It says they don't really play on the third line anymore. Now, I might be overstating that a little bit, but the reason is this move. He says, man, this move is really annoying for black. He says, if it's your move, just play it. Just play it. Don't think about anything, just play it. It is so annoying. I like the way he said it. Oh, it's so annoying. Oh, it's so annoying. Just play it. So let's look at why it's annoying. First, I said, oh, you mean to get the corner? Because at the moment, it's not white's corner. So let's look at that part. Black, white, black. Boom, white has the corner. And black ends up with an extremely steady group. Okay, so that's what I'm used to, how I'm used to seeing it. And he's like, yeah, you can take the corner. But you could tell in his mind, he's thinking, why on earth would you take the corner when you can make black sad? Black doesn't want you to go home. Says, let's just, and I'd never seen these variations before. And he's like, there's so many problems for black. You can do so many things. I mean, this is some nasty things coming up. He says you can also just Hane and look at the center white's building. And there's still the corner stuff, right? There's still this stuff to look at. I'm like, wow. Okay, that's really annoying. He says, yeah. Now let's compare that to this move and why it's better. Look at we'll start with the same move. And his response, oh, how sad for white. He just lived on the right. Few measly points, while black got a really strong position. In his mind, it came up over and over again that the shape and position of the stones is far more important than the points they presently have. That thought, along with the other one, is a few quotes that came up. The idea of just make your group alive. And by alive, he didn't mean two eyes. He meant very safe. Just make your group very safe and go do something. You don't need to stay there and make a bunch of points. It's an interesting perspective. So black's very thick here. If we look at the very regular, we see this invasion a lot. Yeah, white picked up a lot of points in Gote, and black picked up extreme thickness, rock solid group. So the high extension, easy to make, nice solid group. And black's actually not interested in points because he has so many on the bottom. So he just wants stability here. This was some of his thinking. Okay, let's see what else there is here. We went that way, and we saw all that. Okay, and that's as far as we went in this game, was this annoying move. Okay, good. So hopefully that all made some sense. When I assign homework to my students, there's a lot of different ways it's valuable. But one way is that they need to put their thoughts into words, whether it's written words or verbal words. And when you make yourself express something clearly, it cements it in your mind and you're like, learn it better. So that's a lot of what's going on in this video. is I had the lesson, then I went over it. Now I did make notes, which was putting it into words on paper, but now this video, I get to put words out of my mouth instead of out of my hand. And it's, cements it in for me. And hopefully you're receiving some of that too, is going, oh, that makes sense. Okay, everybody. Thanks. Catch you later. Bye.